Brothers, what's going on?
What it do?
What's up?
Making it happen.
We back at it again for another episode, man. Checking in with everybody, man. It's hot. I don't know if it's like that in Cali, but right now, boy, in Texas, man, we went from 30 days of rain to, man, it's so hot outside, it's crazy.
Bruh, they talk about it's 95, but it feel like 105. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, that ain't cool at all. That ain't cool at all, man. Just to check in, man. How everybody doing this week?
Going into this summer, it's looking pretty good. We have some struggles, but not too many. It is getting hot out there, though. Shoes definitely getting hot.
Man, you got some news, man. Go ahead and drop that news, man. You didn't have some good stuff happen in life lately. The young man didn't graduated, huh?
Oh man, of course, yeah. My oldest son has now matriculated out of high school and is going off to LSU starting in the fall. So proud of that young man. Hopefully, he decided to major hopefully in law if he keeps that. So we'll see. A lot of things have been happening, so his interest has gone towards law.
That's what's up, sending that boy cross country from the West Coast, from Cali to the dirty, huh? I see you.
Hey, I did it, so it's a life lesson. He can do it. He'll be all right.
Right. That's what's up. What about the rest of you boys?
Shoot, I'll go ahead and go. Tab, he got a lot to say. But it's been a good week, man. Blessed as always. Shoot, man. That's it. Just trying to go day to day, be the best version of myself, and studying for this thing, man, I got coming up. So, that's all it is, man. That's it.
That's what's up. What you got, Brother Tab?
Shoot, as y'all know, it's been a trying week, challenging couple of weeks. Family took a major loss. One of our, one of my favorite, most favorite family members of all. And then on top of that, we it's just been challenging. Shoot, really, I'm just trying to get my head back in the swing of things and just, realizing the domino effect of losing important family members and how that affects you. But, also, I never missed an episode of Braspective, so always my biggest supporter, always in my corner, man. One of my, like I said, my favorite family members, people in the world. And then had a loss, like I said, from my field training officer the week before that. So life been dealing me some cards, man. They've been dealing me some cards, and I'll tie that into the episode what we speaking about today and how that played out and how it's playing out. But definitely, I appreciate the support of everybody around me. My wife, my friends. Not my friends, y'all family. You know what I'm saying? But everybody around me, because I didn't have my stressors this past couple of weeks, but. Thank God for the home team, man. Keep me floating and stuff like that. Family, kids, everybody played their part, man. Thank God for the home team.
Definitely, man. Definitely sending prayers to her family, man. She definitely was on Braspective every Sunday that we was on. So it's crazy, man. But yeah, shouts out to the family. Praying for y'all, praying for you too, brother.
Not just somebody who commented, who watched, but commented. She was definitely in the comments every episode. So, we're going to definitely miss her presence, and prayers to the family, Taff, and the loss. And, cry when you always tell people, man, cry when you need to cry, laugh when you need to cry, hug somebody when you need to, reach out to somebody when you need to talk, man. Your body our mind going to go through all emotions, man, but allow those emotions to naturally come out for sure.
Right.
Yeah, real talk.
Oh,
well, this week, man, as we approach Father's Day next week, I felt like it was important for us to, dive down into some real comments, man. There's a lot of conversations that I always see happening in the background. And a lot of times these are by platforms dominated by predominantly women. And I think a lot of times women sometimes kind of are the gatekeepers, at least socially, of what people view as a good man. And I think, to be honest with you, who else could better articulate and express what it means to be a good man than men? So I wanted to make sure as brothers we had an opportunity to have that conversation here today on what exactly does it take to make someone a good man? What makes a good man?
Man, that's a broad question there, buddy.
Yeah, that's
you all over the place. You all over the world with this one.
It depends on who you're asking.
Exactly.
Well, from our perspectives as men, what do we
Yeah.
feel like it means to be a good man? Now, obviously, there's a lot of cultural components that go into that, but as men, when you think of a good man, what does that look like?
So we talking about ourselves.
I mean, you could talk about yourself. You could talk about in general. You know what I'm saying? Quit acting like you don't know what the hell I'm asking, man. What does it mean to be a good man?
I mean, I'll start. I mean, when it
So we talking adjectives, right?
no, I think what we're saying is like, from our life experience, from our engagement, what does it take, what's a good man from our perspective? And then of course I
Mhm.
think it get more broad and as we bring in other components. But I mean, let me just start with accountability. And I'll bring my personal perspective in it. So I grew up without a consistent father figure. And the reason why I say consistent, because I still had men in my life who, contribute to what I saw as a good father figure. But in general, I never had a consistent father in my life. So I'm going to say the first thing is just be there. Shoot, keep on showing up. There's a lot of times where I think men think like, man, I don't know how to do this father thing. I mean, I didn't either, but the only thing I can pull from is just keep being there. It'll figure itself out. So I'll start us all off with saying a good man is a man who consistently attempts to show up. You may not always get it right, but that continual attempt to show up is going to at least set things off. So I'll start it with that comment.
For sure. Yeah, consistency is a big one. Like you said, just showing up or being there is one of those things that it's somebody I can always count on, whether that be, like you said, a father figure for those who have fathers. It don't have to be a biological father. You got godfathers, uncles, and et cetera, coaches, et cetera. So consistency is a big part of it. I think another component of it too is honesty. Um, Being honest with yourself as a man and being honest with the people that you love about certain things. So consistency, as we got, I think honesty is a big part of it, because I think what happens is I don't think my parents, my mom or my dad or my step parents sugarcoated a lot of things for me. Like the world is the world, and this is kind of how it is, and I can't save you from certain things. You got to figure it out. So I think like being honest about, man, I can't save you in all that, in all ways. Kind of help me be like, okay, when I get into a rut, how do I figure it out? Because sometimes they ain't got the answers either. So
Yeah, and I'd also say too, on top of those things, is always challenging your growth and looking for adaptation and evolution, right? Like when I look at that in general, all of us are always doing something, right? Like we're always into something, whether it be growing ourselves for our business, whether growing ourselves educationally, whether growing ourselves for our careers, our day-to-day jobs, right? And also just trying to grow ourselves, whether it be spiritually, like y'all said, it's okay to cry, different things like that. We are always challenging ourselves to look inside of what everything we have going on, right? Not some people just use the general statement like dig deep. We're not just digging deep. We're looking at everything we've got going on, right? You could dig deep in a whole bunch of areas. We look at the things that we have going on in our life and challenge ourselves to ask what we can do to make them better. I think, we have that skill set or that attribute of being a conqueror, right? So, I mean, naturally, we're going to look at how do we conquer new tasks that come up in our lives so that we can continue to grow. And I think that has a huge effect on being a good man and your family and how that presents yourself to your family and the people you care about.
That's a good point, Tab, because I do think that we are all fathers here. And as Father's Day approach, the conversation is always as fathers, as leaders, not just in our homes, but in our community, what are we teaching? So, to me, when I think of what's a good man, I mean, obviously there's cultural variations to that. It means different in different cultures, but I think somebody obviously who has some type of value system allows you to be, you have to start with some set of value system. In some aspects, that's your religion. Some aspects that, that's your culture. Some aspects that's the upbringing that you have. But I do think you have to have some type of moralistic value system that kind of guides you in right or wrong, right? Because if you have someone and they don't have that and they're kind of just making decisions based on what works for them or what's in their best interest, that ability to be good, not just for yourself, but for other people can be removed. I think when you're a good man, I think you're not only good to yourself, but you're good to other people. And what I think by that, you have kind of an unconditional regard for the welfare of those around you. So you're kind of always looking out for people unconditionally. I think a good man has a responsibility, not just to himself, not just to his spouse, but to his children, his community, and so on. I mean, how you represent yourself in public, how you represent yourself within your community. I think, and I think we had this conversation prior where we talked about what's our responsibility towards someone else's kids,
Mm.
right? What's our responsibility to take care of someone else's kid? And I think those are certain qualities and characteristics that you see as a good man. If I'm outside and I see some kids in the neighborhood that probably aren't engaged in the best behaviors, do I pull them in the side and have a conversation with them? Right? Because again, I have an obligation to my community as well. All the things that you guys mentioned, as such as being consistent, being a man of your word, being a man of values. I think all those are important, but also just again making sure you have the capacity to do for yourself, right? Because that means you can take care of yourself. You can be self-sustaining if you need be, but also you have the ability to go in and pour into other people around you.
That's right. That's something we learned. Cap Emphasize is a non-hazing organization, before I say this. But it's a book that you got to read, and it talks about altruism. But the one just said, selfish concern for the welfare of others. And that's some that principles that I think is important. Man, a lot of people don't think about it like that because it's always like me, 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 me. What do I need? What do I need? Me, 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 me first. But as a man, a lot of times we get stuff last. I can think about, a lot of things that I probably wanted or whatever. It was like, nah, I got to take care of that house, stuff at the house.
Yeah.
Make sure the wife good, make sure the little man got all the stuff he need, and then I'll give me some. And then the cycle comes around again. I ain't even got nothing the first time. But, it's just one of the things of putting all your energy into those people that you love, whether they my kids, y'all kids, whatever, people in the community, giving them the stuff that they need to make sure they are right, and then I'll get mine. But,
But I always notice that when I look out for others, it comes back to me though. Like just speaking from not only my faith base, but from the things I've learned as I've grown into becoming an adult. The more that you do have altruism, or you start to look out for others, you start to see like the benefits in doing that then benefits you, because that karma, if you believe in karma, starts to kick in. But as you guys were saying, outside of just looking out for your community and others, is also stepping up when necessary. Like a lot of times, as we were talking about, and the one that you just alluded to, when you see neighborhood kids, doing something that you don't think aren't right, you never know who doesn't have that father or that person in their life to give them that guidance. And so when you do step out there and you're like, hey, this is something I have interest in, I'm trying to help, others, you start to see what kind of man is needed in society. That's where I'm going. So we're talking about what's a good man in general, but after a while, when you are having altruism and looking out for others, you start to see what kind of man is needed just in general. And I think that's another thing that people, have their blinders on. And after a while, not only becoming a good man for your family, you start becoming a good man for society. And I think that's kind of big.
Yeah, Dewan was saying just a little bit earlier, talking about, the society defines what a good man is in different type of ways or whatever. But I'd even go a step further to say it's not even just society or cultural wise, right? It's actually household wise, right? What the needs are in my household in order for me to be a good man, or what the needs of your household is for you to be a good man. They may have varies, right? We all have commonalities that we hold each other accountable for. But I think even from household to household, it's subjective. You got to really look at what your household needs are and what your desires are. You can look at people that have special needs children. It may desire them to be more catering and spend more time with their children than we would at certain age groups, because we're like, man, we got to let your hand go and let you get out in the world and go through different experiences, right? But it requires more of your time, more of your patience and stuff like that. So I do think that, household to household, there's going to be some variations, but I think we can all agree on there are some common core things that we need to do that presents us and makes us good men.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because I do think that absent of us really having these conversations consistently with our uncles, our grandfathers, our fathers, things of that nature, sometimes that idea of what to be a good man, it can get lost in what society tells you should be doing, right? I think obviously, I feel like there's an obligation that I have to lead, not just again in my household, but just in my community as much as possible. And sometimes I'm leading in silence, but just by my actions though, right? So I may not be out there advocating and this and that. Sometimes me leading is just by doing the right thing and handling business and taking care of myself and looking out for my brother to the left, my brother to the right. So I think that having those conversations as much as we can, it's consistent because some men, their idea of being a good man is just probably being a provider, right? Because they probably were raised in homes where there wasn't a provider, or they witnessed situations where, that woman is requiring them to pay the bills and pay that. And that's all they know how to do because there hasn't really been anything that has been poured into them or anything else that has been coached into them. So I think that being able to understand and broaden our horizon of what that is, again, we talk about religion and how being a godly man or being a godly or a spiritual or a faith-based person is important too, because you have to have something that holds your actions accountable. I have to have that character that when I am not around my family, when I'm not around my wife, when I'm not around the people who's going to hold me accountable, I can still hold myself accountable. So I think that just internal compass of being able to say, this is not right for me, this is right for me, I think that goes a long way, especially again, as we are all fathers, we're all raising young men, being able to really understand what that looks like and being able to take that energy and that message and start to transfer it over into younger generations.
Yeah, you just made a very true statement right there. It's that when nobody's around, what kind of decision making are you doing? That's the big one. I think a lot of men are, they, like you were saying, they're holding themselves accountable, and Jeff spoke to this too. I got to take care of so many other things, situations before I can take care of myself, which is good. But at the same time, it's when nobody's around, what kind of thoughts are you having? What kind of things are you trying to get together for, whether it be your kids or your family or even for yourself? And I think that's where your who you are, your innate person comes out, because when you're sitting alone and nobody's paying attention, what kind of decisions are you making as a man? And I think that kind of defines what a good man is, because yeah, a lot of our decisions that we make in the dark do come to the light at some point.
Yeah.
Chris, what you over there doing, man? You got something you want to say?
No. I'm just saying in general.
But I think even to his point, though, right? Because, I mean, we don't never really like to sugarcoat shit. We try to get into it. I think even to Parrish's point, we always are in constant, trying to revamp that, right? Like we know what our conflicts are. We know what our inner demons are and stuff like that. And we're constantly trying to figure out, how do we get past them? How do we overcome our obstacles in life? And what do we do to push forward? I know that, like Dewan said, when it comes to just being a provider and stuff like that, if that was what being a good man was based on, then I'd give myself, somewhere in the A ranking, from A- to A+. I'll let that be the subjective portion of it. But at the same time, people in my household require more than just that, right? Because everybody is being raised to be independent and capable people. So money is not necessarily the driving force in my household. It's really about time. And I'm not always good at that, giving my time, allowing time, and trying to make sure that I have the most time available for the development of the people around me. And I feel like that is a key component of being a good man. And then, to Parrish's point, when I am giving that time out and stuff like that, and I am sitting by myself, the part of also, this thing in being a good man, and now here come the hurdles and obstacles. Mine would be the what about me factor. I've given out all these things. Now, what about me? And how does that play out? How does that affect me on my journey to becoming, staying a good man and continuing to become a good man? And I think that's something that also has to be, accounted for, is the what about me, and how do you handle the what about me moments?
Yeah. That tab, that's it. So what you see is sometimes we find ourselves forgetting what it means to be a leader, right? What it means to lead people. That means sometimes you are the person that's putting yourself in harm's way. You are the person out there trying something. You are the person who has to engage in the behavior that is necessary to get the job done for other people to follow you. I think sometimes what ends up happening when we get lost when it comes to like relationships, as far as being a good man, it's like, what about me? Well, you're not doing this for me. You're not doing that for me. Well, maybe that person don't know how, so you should show them how. Sometimes I always tell people this in relationships, particularly. You have to teach your partner how to love you, right? But you have a lot of people, and I see this a lot in like therapy. You get couples coming in. The man is like, well, she don't do this, she don't do that, she don't do this, she don't do that. But he wants the respect as the leader. Well, hold on, bro. If you want to be the leader in the relationship, you got to lead and do the right thing, even when she's not doing it, right? She's not doing it. I tell people all the time, if my wife have an attitude and she's mad about something, I'm not gonna then in turn have an attitude just because she has an attitude, and I'm gonna still be nice to her, I'm gonna still be sweet to her, I'm gonna still, because the overall, whatever she's going through, that's what she's going through. But I'm not going to allow myself to get off the path of doing the right thing simply because in that moment she's struggling. And I think too often what you find is people who say they leaders, they're not true leaders. They want to be leaders, but they really sheep and followers, because in those moments when things are not in the best situation, they always looking, well, what about me? Leaders ain't looking about what about me. They looking about what about everybody else. And so you have to be able to take that position. And I think part of being a good man in all regard is being a leader, and not necessarily being a leader in your words, but in being a leader in your actions.
DeJuan called them sheeps, man. He's tough on them. No, it's one of them things. It's that and more. And another thing about it, when we talk about in a relationship is it's not the, I just said it earlier, it's not the me part. It's what can I give and what can I do for somebody else. So regardless of like the one said that my wife is upset or mad, her joy shouldn't just base solely on my joy. Like she should have her own joy, I should have my joy, and then together we should have an abundance. You know what I'm saying? Of joy. So a lot of times people drain their partner by being hell of an attitude or being aggressive or not giving that joy. They always giving them some shit, and it's like, well, I was happy until you became angry for the last month, and we ain't physically touching, we ain't going to having fun, we not doing anything, and then that drains that other person, and now they're running low. Their love bank is running very low. People are not adding to their love banks. That's some of the terminology they use in therapy. Adding to your love bank. It's just like your bank account, right? So when your bank account, you can't just be making, just keep taking out without adding no deposits, right? So it's just like that in a relationship. You got to add to it. You got to love it. You got to, let it flourish and nourish it, and hold hands and cuddle and kiss and do all the stuff, whatever your partner enjoys, or do the stuff around the house, whatever it is. You got to keep adding to that bank, and then you can take out some I guess bad debt or whatever when you have an argument. Okay, the love bank is high. That didn't break us. You know what I'm saying? Another problem, that didn't break us because we had so much stuff built up in our love bank to where stuff like that won't hurt us. So that's the kind of stuff we got to do as men. Because as men, I know I'm not the most nurturing person, but I try my best with my wife, and she knows she's the lovey-dovey when I'm not. But I'm the doer around here. Something needs to get done. Boom, 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 boom. So it's a good balance of that. But I try my best to be more loving and holding hands and all that kind of stuff that she likes, because that's what she needs.
Yeah, Oh, go ahead.
No. I'll let you go. Go ahead.
No, I was going to shift into something else anyway. So go ahead if you was going to.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say, in regards to the relationship, I think as men, we grow to understand how to be a man in a relationship, because what you experience with one relationship is not going to be the same in the other. And you can't, as a man, and I'll put this on myself, as men, I don't know about everybody, as men, a lot of times I will be like, all right, I was hurt that way, so let me make sure I keep my guard up so I don't be hurt like that, so I'm not hurt like that again. And what that does, though, is that creates a barrier as you go into your next relationship, because you're like, oh, I don't want to be as vulnerable, because if I am, I'm going to be hurt. So what I'm trying to get at is, as men in relationship, we have to learn to be like, all right, let me let go of my past traumas or my past, understandings, and come into this very open and making myself available. So in a relationship, you really, I think as men, we need to be mindful of, all right, what am I carrying that I don't need to carry into my next relationship? I don't think as men, we actually look into that, because we're like, man, I got to be on my macho, and I can't I can't put that out there. But at the same time, you got to be mindful of that, because if you bring that kind of thought into your next relationship, you're already bound to that. It won't work. So that's, I think, as a man in a relationship, that's something you got to be mindful. I'm dealing with a new personality. I'm dealing with new sets of understanding. So let me be able to adjust myself to that.
Pete, let me add this before you go, Taff, because I know you want to go. I would say kind of letting it go as part of it, but I would say more so work through the trauma, right? Because I do think that you got to do the work to be aware of your triggers and what are the things that's causing you to not be that man that you see yourself as, right? Because I do think that's where the disconnect lies. I think a lot of men out here who say they're a good man, I think they believe that they're a good man, but then again, there's a disconnect because they're not able to see things from other people's perspectives. Or as Jeff say, feel the needs of other people who have things that they're not getting. Oh, buddy, a black man don't cheat. You know what I'm saying? He probably had a true persona of who he was as a man, but for whatever reason, he couldn't live up to that, right? Because not only
you talking about the dude with the books and all that?
yeah.
The dude who set himself up.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so let's be honest. For whatever reason, that's why I talked about that moral compass, right? It's you can't just say you can't just say I'm a good man, but then you don't really have some tools or some blueprint to follow. Having some direction, you know, Diamond asks, do we kind of hold each other accountable or do we mold each other? And I think that's it. Tab always talks about this. He always says that when something goes wrong with the brothers, we jump on the line and we call each other. Something going on, we gonna check on each other. Something happened, Tab get out of line, we gonna all call Tab like, Tab, what the hell you doing, bro? What's wrong with you? Jeff, me, P, Devin, Marcus, you know, Ron, everybody, Rail, Daylon, all the people, right? The whole group, Eric, everybody, AK, all of the family gonna jump on and be like, Alex, we're gonna jump on and be like, hey, what's going on, bro? Why you tripping, man? You shouldn't be doing that thing. And I think that's why it becomes important, because good men can hold other men accountable and we can give them a blueprint or understanding of the direction to go. They may not go the exact path, the exact choices that you make, but they have an understanding of what direction they should be going opposed to the one they wouldn't. So we got to work through those traumas so we can understand how they are showing up in our relationships and just in our personal lives.
And you was pushing it right to where I was actually getting ready to go to. I was like, because it's not just about the relationship thing, right? Like we talked about that and we've been in that for a second. It's about the things outside of that affect how you show up as a good man, right? Like I could be like, well, I hate my job. I hate the people around me. I hate all the things going on and different things like that. But when the 15th and the 1st come, I always pay for everything that I need to pay for in my household. Therefore, I'm a good man. Well, no, that's not true. Actually, I mean, even as I look at it, right? I talk about this openly, and being one of like only 2-3 Black police officers at my agency is a draining experience, right? Trying to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion is a draining experience, especially with those that think they have a good compass of something that they have really no compass of at all, right? And I'm not speaking for all in my agency, but I am speaking for a good majority that I encounter. So what will happen because of that is I have to take a stance now when I approach certain conversations. Do I want to be right, or do I want to continue to push the agenda forward of the goal that I have? And my goal is equality, right? I want to walk into a police department that doesn't look like one certain type of way. It represents all types of ways, right? But I know that in my place, in the light that I hold, how I approach those situations, I have to approach it with delicacy a lot of the times, right? Now, fast forwarding, because we've talked about that before. How does that experience now weigh on me when I come home, right? I've had to dance around people and dance around shit and topics all day long. And now when I get home, I have to interact with my kids, I have to interact with my wife, right? I may be in a cut the bullshit type of mood right now, or no nonsense type of mood right now, because I've already had to play, Obama response to all of these type of people that I'm dealing with that don't understand these type of issues that I go through. So now what's my patience like when I get home and I show up to these people, right? I may have gotten paid 2 days ago and paid for everything. So if I'm only focused on the fact that, my job is to be a provider, all of these experiences that I've had to go through all week with these people that aren't necessarily in the space to be as well-rounded about these topics that I'm having are now when I'm so happy to get away from them. Now they ask us to showing up in my home and playing out on how I treat and interact with my family, my kids. It plays out in the what about me moments and things like that. And I don't think my job is specific to this type of feeling. I think that this is something that shows up in a lot of men in general, right? It ain't just me. If I look, I know DeJuan's smiling right now because having to sit on the couch and listen to people for 9-10 hours a day, and now he got to go home and listen to some shit. That's going to be a trying experience. I know what Parrish's situations is as a dean, and I know what Jeff's situations is. So these are things that we're talking about when it also comes to being a good man, is how do you take all of these things happening around you and also make sure that they're not eating into the things that are important to you? How do you focus back on what's important?
Tab, let's broaden that horizon though. I mean, that topic of or the word provider. Let's broaden that, because we can use that as a baseline for what it means to be a good man, but not just providing financially, providing emotionally, physically and mentally. You know what I mean, right? So if we just take that category as provider and we say, okay, you got the financial part of it, check. All right, let's try the mental part. So what does that look like mentally? So then you go ask the people in your home, what do they need, right? My son, he needs time where we're just sitting down, just next to each other, right?
Wrestling.
Or we wrestling, play fighting, right? That's me providing for him. I'm providing his need, right? His emotional need. Because remember, kids have love languages too, right? So my son values quality time, and his quality time is, Daddy, let's fight, let's play together, let's play Roblox. You get on your tablet, I get on my tablet. Wife, figure out what her needs are, right? Then emotionally, what do you do emotionally? Are you toxic? Are you somebody yelling and hollering and screaming all day? Are you being a stonewaller, which you're not allowing your partner to communicate with you? You don't want to talk because you're put up this brick wall to keep them from communicating to you. What are you doing to get in the way? Are you pouring, like Jeff said, into the cup emotionally by making sure your wife feels safe, right? Not hiding from her, making sure things are transparent within all things, bills, everything, right? And then the physical part. Are you, again, taking care of the home? Are you one of those dudes, man, who when the alarm go off, man, you telling your wife to get up and go check the door? Don't be that dude, bro. Please don't be that dude. The alarm goes off, man, you go get up and go check. You hear somebody in the house? You hear somebody in the house, you waking up your woman like, hey, babe, I think somebody in the house. What you mean? Let her sleep in peace while that's protecting somebody mentally. You get what I'm saying? That's protecting somebody mentally, man. I tell this story all the time. It's a white lie, right? So, my wife was like one day, she's like, babe, I think I seen a snake in the backyard. And I'm like, baby, wasn't no snake back there. So I go and check, right? Hey, it was a snake for sure back there, right? It was a big ass snake too, but the snake went about his business and all that. So when I went back in the house, she was like, babe, was it a snake? I said, nah, babe, I went all around the yard. It wasn't no snake. Now, somebody will say, well, why you just didn't be honest with her? Because had I told my wife the truth, she would have had a lot of anxiety about living in that house. She would have never felt safe in that space again because she's afraid of snakes. But again, what I did as a leader, I protected her emotionally in that situation. Again, some people may say, hey, man, you should have just told her the truth. But again, you have to know your partner and know how they deal with situations and be able to make sure you give them the information that they need emotionally to be able to function in this space. I protected her anxiety and her sense of safety within her home. So that's all the components of that providing that's added.
Yeah, I mean, I think all that is great information, but I think also what Taff was getting at too, and I gotta, from being a man, you gotta check in with yourself, and you gotta know what's gonna work best for you. It's hard to be all those things to everybody when you're not secure in yourself and you're not expressing what you need. Because as much as we're like, taking care of your house and after a while, if you're not having some time to invest in yourself and somebody's not investing in you the way that you want to be invested in, you're not going to show up accurately. You're not going to show up right. And then it's going to create other problems or challenges. So I think also as a male or a man, keeping that energy going is we got to know who we are. We got to know what our pushing points are. We got to know exactly like how we like to engage, or know your love language. Because if you don't, everything we're talking about is not going to work. I've never been a big component of therapy, but I've experienced it, and I was like, shoot, I may need to invest in this a little bit more, because if you don't know yourself, there's a lot that's going to go wrong in creating a well-balanced relationship at home, a well-balanced relationship at work, even with your kids. It's not going to be in alignment if you don't know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Tab was talking about when you're having those hard times and dealing with a lot of stuff is, what are your coping skills? And then as men, sometimes we got some shitty ass, toxic ass coping skills, whether it be you gonna want to hit the club or hang out with the homies or want to get on the bottle or whatever it is that
gambling, porn, drinking.
All the things you want to add to the list, right? All the things you want to add to the list, and then those things are bad for you. So I'm saying, we got to get some coping skills, whether it be talking with the brothers, right? Doing that, going to work out, playing a video game, going golfing, going walking, drinking your water, eating right. Like all those things take account, are taken into account of you being a good human, and then physically feeling good too. So know our coping skills.
Yeah.
Not
No, and I mean, to Jeff's point too, you got to have those coping skills and make them healthy, right? Because whether you, we talking about porn, gambling, all that stuff, but that applies to single men too, right? If that's what you do when you go through bad situations and stuff like that, that's not necessarily good for you. Just like it's not good for a man in a relationship or married as well too. So be aware of those type of things and how they show up. I know, part of also being a good man, in my opinion, is having good men around you. Like once again, I mean, we rely heavily on the gang. It's a village, right? Like, yeah, I have to be responsible for making my own decisions. I have to know what decisions I want to make, and I have to be able to assess what decisions I'm making and if they're right or they're wrong. But it's nothing wrong with checking in with good men around you in order to figure out, hey, is there something I can do better? Is there something that I haven't, accounted for? How did you handle this situation, right? Me asking or checking in with one of the homies is just adding to my tool belt to make sure that when I go out and try to make a good decision, that I've effectively looked at it from the best standpoint I could for myself, and also for the ones that are great around me and how they would have assessed and did that. And then I make a decision for myself.
There's so many cliches that are accurate in this type of environment. Like, one thing is, iron sharpens iron. So if you're surrounded by individuals who is trying to make you a better person, then that sharpening of iron is going to work. Also, the other memes that come in my head or things that come in my head is, where am I going to be in 5 years? Well, look at the men that you're surrounded around. Look at the people that you're surrounded around. That's going to tell you where you're going to be in 5 years. So if we're talking about men growing and going forth to be the productive men that you are, a family man, taking care of your responsibilities, look at the people you surround yourself with. If you got a homeboy who's consistently doing dirt, after a while, you're going to be like, is that what we made up to do? Is just to do regular dirt? You got to look at it all. You got to look at the bigger picture in order to make those educated decisions.
Go ahead. You boys preaching today, P, because that's it, right? Remember we talked about that emotional providing that you're doing, right? If you out here and you got 4 or 5 homies and they all hoes, and you hanging with them dudes all the time, your wife know that they hoes, so you're not giving her that same emotional, you're not giving her that emotional security, because although you could tell her, baby, I ain't doing that, she know who you hanging around. She know what they posting on Instagram. She know. So again, some of that is surrounding yourself with right people. You think about it like this: CEOs surround themselves with other CEOs, right? Because Tab, you don't know what the back of your neck look like.
No,
you don't know what the back. You need somebody to be able to communicate to you and tell you about your blind spots, what areas that you can't see where you need to grow or you may need to improve. So CEOs surround themselves with CEOs, managers surround themselves with managers. Any point in your life where you're trying to grow, you surround yourself with people on that level. So to me, when you become married, you surround yourself with other married people. When you become a husband or a father, you surround yourself with other fathers. The same way as a man, you surround yourself with other men. That's if you're trying to grow, because you do not grow on the island by yourself.
No, and then go. I was just gonna say, even at this point, when we talking about that, right? And your point, when we talking about hoes and cheating and stuff like that, let's look at the evolution of cheating, right? Because we can't act like that doesn't exist. You got men that cheated and boys that cheat, right? And you talk about that. How many hoes you got? How many bitches you got? Whatever the case may be. I got 5. I got 10 bitches. Now watch how the progression of that goes. And this is for people, if you really are trying to assess that for yourself, assess the growth of your journey on being a man. You start off talking about that shit like that shit is cool. Then you start off and it tapers off. It's not cool no more, and you don't talk about it. You only talk about it with a certain group of people. Then you get to a point where you don't talk about it at all, or you just don't do it at all. That's you continuing to grow in the evolution of being a man, right? Because we can sit up here and act like, that the cheating and all of that stuff don't exist. But obviously we know that the divorce rate is damn near over 50%. And all of it ain't due to money issues, and they don't talk and they don't buy me flowers no more. So look at the evolution of the people around you. At one point in time, all of us was young men, basking in being young men and living a lifestyle that we thought was hot and cool and stuff like that.
I'll say that.
Yeah, but eventually, as we continue to hit different strides in our lives, the shit tapers off, right? It tapers off a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until it's not cool anymore, and to the point where people around you, right, that were hoes or not, are like, hey, man, like, you got to get your shit together. You know what I'm saying? They redirecting you back to your home or redirecting you back in just your life in general, if you're single or not, to challenge yourself to be a better person. So when we talking about being a good man and a village around you and them 3 or 4 friends as hoes. Okay, if y'all 20 something years old, 20, and I mean 20, 21, maybe that shit is cute. But hopefully by the time y'all start hitting them 25th and 30th birthdays and stuff like that, somebody is telling you, man, you know, I got your back, but you got to cut that shit out. That's important.
Yeah.
That's important to your evolution and growth as a man. Being caught up in these streets don't necessarily lead to your evolution or growth either. So it's important shit to, you know, realize in a friendship and your growth and making sure you holding yourself accountable for you and the clique.
And you know what? I'm gonna just bring it to a way to gauge if you are moving in the right direction. And I got to give kudos to you guys as the guys that I network with, as well as my other friend. My son going off to college, he was like, yo, Dad, when it's all said and done, I want to have a group of dudes that engage like you guys do. And that lets me know like something is going right, or it's something's going right, or it's clicking. Because he was like, I like how you guys just are around each other. I like how you guys engage with each other. So me, you know, just bringing this full circle, growing up without a father figure, and now I've put myself in areas where I can have these kind of conversations. And my son, who's just a, you know, ear away, we don't know who's listening to, who's an ear away, is like, oh, okay, I see why you guys make those decisions. I see why you guys talk the way you guys do. And so that's how you can gauge, like, am I going down the right path when I have my legacy talking about, I want to have the same kind of connections that you do with other men. And that's another thing that I also wanted to dab in there is a lot of times, you know, as men, we're like, hey, I really don't need to, you know, share my concerns of my life with other men. Like, how do I really engage with other men? And so now that I'm able to do that, now that's happening and my son is actually seeing it, that's where I'm like, okay, things is clicking right. I am doing something. I am on the right path. So that accountability starts to show up in other ways. And I think he is a good measurement on how we're doing as men, my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think that's important though, being vulnerable with other men. It sounds weird and people are like, man, that's weird. But it's not, because we're raising men, right? All of us got boys. And like he said, his son's picking up, he got the oldest of all of our kids, but his son's picking up on it is like, you know, am I tripping? And the only way you're going to know, like, am I tripping is one of your partners or somebody you love call you out and say, hey, bro, you tripping? Or am I going the right way? Like, those things are...
He was making babies in middle school. He was making babies in middle school.
Yeah, his son, he got a high school graduate. He got a man on his hands now. But those kind of things are like, who's going to pull your card? And who, you know what I'm saying? Who's going to pull your card and say, hey, man, you tripping? You know what I'm saying? Who's better than another man that has led before or is leading and all that kind of stuff? That's important.
Yeah, and we seek relationships with the older men around us too. I mean, we got Uncle G in the chat right now. We got Bruce. We got the brother Dwight in here. I often go sit down at, well, not, you know, when I can, I sit down at lunch with brother Dwight and we just chop it up. You know what I'm saying?
Go play dominoes with Big Jeff.
Yeah, I go to Jeff's dad's house and just chop it up and stuff like that. We don't just look at what we got going on right now in the now to assess if we're good men, right? And that's another part of being a good man is assess what you got going on now and assess what you got going on in the future and where you're trying to go to. I know what I get out of this group. I know what the present brings me in this group of friends right now. However, none of them can speak to what it's like to be a grandfather, what it's like to be retired, what it's like to manage, you know, all of these things when you at home with your wife because you got ample free time. We hustlers. We ain't at home a lot. We in the trenches bringing back chips, and that's what we do. So when we are sitting here having these conversations with older men, we're trying to figure out how do we transition to that, right? All the older men that we around and stuff like that, they live a peaceful ass life. They come and go. They sit with us. They drink, they yak, they drink, they whatever. They smoke their cigars. They play dominoes with us. They put us on music. We exchange game back and forth. But they live a peaceful ass life. We're striving to be that. They're good men. They take care of their families, and they're well respected by other men. Those are all things that I want to be at the end of the day when somebody assesses if I'm a good man or not. Does my household love me? Does the men around me respect me? And do, you know, the generation coming up under me look at me and say, yeah, I saw what he did and I want to do that, right? Those are the general conceptions around that. But I can't go without letting them know that, you know, we appreciate them. And the good women around us as well, too. That makes good men.
I had a conversation with my son the other day, right? And I think, Tav, me and you, you know, do this kind of mindfully. We bring our kids around the gang all the time, right? So You know, and when we home in California, little TJ with us, right? Wherever we go, we going shopping, we going to go eat. TJ there. When we here, especially when the wife going out of town, yeah, he be right there too. He be telling all our business too. But
he just with us in general. He bad, man.
when we do stuff here, you know, Daniel be with us. Daniel be with it with me and Jeff running around all day, like all day. You know what I'm saying? I think intentionally, I'm trying to make sure my son is mindful of what it likes to have good men around you, what it looks like, that circle, right? That circle of men that not only he can go to his dad for something, but he may not want to talk to me. He may pull up and want to talk to Uncle Jeff about it, right? He may want to be like, well, hold on. Let me go talk to my goddaddy real quick. Jeff, let me go see what's going on and figure out that conversation. You know, that stuff is mindful. I told my son the other day, he was saying, Daddy, you know, what do you want for your birthday and Father's Day? I said, I want you to make me something from you, from your heart. I don't want your mama to go buy something that says from you. I want you to know that you take time and you put energy into people that put energy and effort into you. So for you, I don't care if you make me a card, you get a piece of paper and say, Happy Father's Day. I want something that you did that you had to take time to do, because when we was younger, that's what we had to do, right? We had to go and make those gifts for our parents. We had to go do that. And I think that it's teaching them a lesson, man. You pour into people who pour into you. So yeah, I don't want you to go into your piggy bank and go buy me nothing. Nah. But I want you to take some time to say, hey, Dad, I appreciate you, because I'm teaching them a lesson that as you get older, you have to appreciate the people that take care of you. You have to go out and show them in different ways. And that becomes extremely important.
Yeah.
And what they gonna say at your funeral, man? It's one of them things. Like, was he silent, or ain't nobody gonna be there?
Ain't nobody gonna, man.
I hope they say good things about all of us, that we always moved on G shit. You know?
No, it's crazy. You know, I'm thinking about like my brother's funeral, bro. It was packed. Like we was like, it was still at a bigger place. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was hundreds of people in there to see this kid, 20 years old, right? I'm like, he made his mark. In 20 years, he made his mark, because there was so many people in there. So many people wanted to talk, bro. Touched a lot of people. And it's one of those things, like, when I pass, is my, you know what I'm saying, is the room going to be full like that? It's one of the things you got to think about.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I was, you know, thinking about that. He was a young man, right? And he packed and filled a room and stuff like that. So obviously he was on the good man. He is a good man track already. Right. And we were touching on that a little bit. And I do want to revisit that. Like I said, it's also, you know, when we talking about, you know, our masculinity and all our shit, it's also good women around us, right? Moms, sisters, you know, G-mommy, everybody around us and stuff like that make good men, right? Because a lot of this shit is we out here dishing all of these things out, and we need somebody to just say, hey, you're doing a good job. Keep pushing forward. I like what you're doing. Let me pray for you. Stuff like that. Because I mean, yeah, I'm my wife. I mean, that's part of me being a good man. But at the same time, right, the things that my sister needs from me is not the things that my wife needs from me. The things that my mom needs from me is not the same things that my wife needs from me. So therefore, in my journey to continue to figure out how do I fill everybody's cup, it's people that I don't have that intimate relationship with, like I have with my wife, that are female, that are important to me, that require me and need me to do certain things that allow me to figure out how do I be more well-rounded in this experience of dealing with my wife in general. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I come back to that relationship and make sure that I'm doing it the right way? So I think that the good women around us is just as important in the development of good men, as well as the OGs we got around us.
Tab, that is so important, right? We just had up there self-care versus coping, and y'all talked earlier about like coping skills, having those things that you do that kind of a response to something, right? So you always think about your coping skills are reactive. It's something you do after the fact, after something happened. But then your self-care is the things you do to prevent. So the things you do, I know, you know, I like to go fishing every other week because that keeps my week smooth going into the week. Or I jump on a video game because I know, you know, that kind of gives me the energy that I need to go and handle the rest of my business. Whatever I do for my self-care is the thing that I do to keep me from technically needing coping skills. But the realities are, how many times do you see kind of a bad seed, a bad situation, a bad relationship get in the way of that man being a good man, right? Because, oh man, you always want to hang with your friends. Well, hold on. That's my self-care. My self-care is to go and hang with the people who care for me, right? My self-care is to go bowling or go fishing or go play pool or poker. That's my self-care. Or my coping is, you know, to go out and go for a jog or go to the gym. I think sometimes that's where it really looks at a relationship, because the realities are a good man typically needs to feel appreciated, right? A good man will leave a situation where he's not appreciated, period, point blank, right? It doesn't matter what the history is, how long. If that man is a good man and he's given all his energy and effort to be a good man and it's not appreciated, he won't stay in that situation long. And I think that's where we have to make sure that you can see sometimes where you have this good man over here, but then maybe, and we're talking about maybe heterosexual relationships, you're talking about that woman who, for whatever reason, it's not enough, and she wants more, and she wants more, and she wants more, and she find herself, if not ruining that good man, but not with that good man. And then you see on the message, well, we can't find no good man out there. Well, I think the part of it is what you believe or your perception is a good man. That's not necessarily the good man. You probably want somebody that's gonna buy whatever you want, or somebody's gonna put you in that big house, in a big car, or you don't really have a clear understanding of what that good man is. And I think it can affect a man's understanding of who he is, because you shouldn't look to your partner to determine if you're a good man per se, right? But you should have an understanding of these goals and these directions, this blueprint that you're trying to do to instill that consideration and that understanding of what a good man looks like. That becomes extremely important.
But see, what I'm gonna say to that response, if a good man, he gonna see right through that and be like, yeah, I'm gonna let that go. So
but you're right though. But you're right, but let me tell you why though he may not pee, because in his mind, well, hold on, I'm a good man, I gotta just suck it up and deal with it, right?
Nah.
But P, I'm gonna throw the challenge flag on that. We've got a couple of, and I ain't calling out no names, but if you want to text my phone and talk about it later, we can. We've got a couple of good men within our circle of people that have women in their lives that don't necessarily understand the value of the balance of their friendship with us, and necessarily the balance of how that translates into their household. And maybe it's not just us that they have the issue with, but they have some level of control over these situations where they don't feel comfortable, or they're not necessarily letting that man out the house, or that man don't feel comfortable coming out of the house, because maybe it's not the woman's fault, because I don't want to put it all on her. Maybe it's his perception of being a man that he thinks that he has to pour into this situation a certain type of way, but it's hurting him in other areas. And we've got multiple friends that I could put on that list like that. And when it shows up, honestly, for all of them, I've seen it be a detriment to them. I haven't seen it necessarily be a positive to them. It's been a hindrance to all of them. And that's not me telling somebody how to run their relationship. However, it's me recognizing that these men are good men. However, they don't know how to balance their relationships so that they can have everything that they need in order to continue their journey of being a good man. And it's showing up, and it's fucked up for them, but it's bad.
Well, let me throw the flag right back at you, because here's the thing. That's your perception. That's not his reality. His reality may be that may be the reality that he has manifested and decided to want to live. So you may see it as, man, you being hindered in this way, or you not really capitalizing on this side. And he may be like, I don't want all that. I don't need all that. I know what I'm doing over here. I'm good over here.
But we're not talking about guys like that. We're talking about guys that are actually.
We don't know the guy. We don't know if that's his lifestyle. That's how he wants to live.
The guys that we're talking about are guys that identify with this as a problem for them. They just don't know how to fix it. I'm not speaking to guys that I perceive that for, because like you said, everybody has different strokes for different folks. I'm talking about guys that actually identify that being an issue and them not knowing how to handle it and how that translates for them. It's not me saying, damn, well, I see this going on, so this must be how it's going for them. You can't come and bring that to the table, which these guys have done, and then put themselves in a situation where they're like, man, but I got to do that. Wait a minute. What you got to do is advocate for yourself and what your needs are. I can't go and do it right. I'm not looking at your girl any different because of that. I'm just looking at you for what it is based on how you showing up and doing your thing. But you're the one that put that on the table saying, well, I feel like I got to do that. Well, okay, well, it looks like it's hurting you, brother. So you might want to figure it out. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not speaking for nobody that I perceive that on. I'm speaking for the people that actually have said that, you know what I'm saying, articulated that for themselves. Because like you said, it would be unfair to do that. That would be like me talking about your relationship or anybody else's in here and being like, well, you know what, your situation is like that because of this. I don't know the details in the inner, what all is the agreement in those things. So therefore, it's not for me to speak on.
Yeah, it all can be sometimes convoluted because again, there's that internal perception and there's that external perception, right? And I think again that internal aspect of like, who do you want to be as a person. I used to say a long time ago in my younger relationships, look, man, I don't do that domestic violence stuff because I don't want to ever put myself in a, don't hit me because I don't want to ever put myself in a situation where I'm so mad that you hit me, I'm hitting you. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that. Hey, don't cheat on me because I don't want to be in that situation where I'm out here running around in these streets cheating on you. Don't put me in that situation because I'm trying to be this certain type of man. Don't get in the way of me and being that man. And I think sometimes you have to be able to have that real conversation. We're talking about being honest. We're not talking about sugarcoating it for the world. We're talking about that honest conversation with yourself. It's like, look, man, I don't want to be that person. So please don't do this shit or please don't do that. Right. And I think that is what it has to be, that internal moral compass that you have. And yes, a lot of it again is those in your family, because again, I could think I'm the greatest man in the world, but if my wife don't think I'm a good man, maybe there's some things I need to do to tweak the situation and try a little harder. But in all honesty, I can only give my best. Once my best is not enough, then maybe that situation is not the situation I need to be in. And I think that's the part where we can't allow ourselves to be ruined when we're trying to be good men because, oh, I gave my best and it didn't work, so fucking I'm just going to give up. No, maybe that situation is not for you. You can't fit a square peg in a round hole. You just can't do it. And so you have to be able to understand when this situation may not work.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that one.
Man, I agree with a lot of that. A lot of this sound like too. I was thinking of paid in full the whole time. Mitch talking about if I leave, the streets miss me. So I was like, this sounds like Mitch. If I change up, will the streets miss me? Will my family miss me?
But that's what some men think love is, right? It's the street. They got all they never had no body hug them or love them or nothing like that before. It was the streets. It was how many chicks they had, how many gold chains they had, how much crack they were selling, whatever it is. It was based on that. It wasn't based on an actual connection, right? It wasn't based on none of that. It wasn't based on any of that. It was just based on how many chicks I could smash, how much bread I could get, all that kind of stuff.
That's why I said work through your trauma earlier, because that's it. Like if you got this affliction with attention, maybe it's not necessarily the attention from the streets. It's just you didn't get that attention growing up as a kid. And so you've always desired it and wanted it. So now that you get it and you're older and you get in the streets, it's a cycle that's going to continue to perpetuate itself because you hadn't got to the root of the issue. The root of the issue is I didn't get that attention from my family. So now I'm trying to get it from the streets. Once I have that understanding, now I can do something about it because I understand where the issue and the problem actually started. So that's why all that can be tricky.
But you got to have a hope phase, man. You young ones. Where your son at? Your son.
You gotta get it out.
No phase, man. It's a part of life. Shit, I did it. All did it.
We always talk about that though when it comes to fraternity and sorority life and even street life and stuff like that, right? We know a lot of people, and we just, in order to keep us clean and we ain't getting indicted, we know a lot of people in fraternity and sorority life, right? We won't speak on street life too much, that have became a member of organizations and then they started going wild, right? They took whole phase and turned it to and put it from 0 to 100. They've taken, this is the streets gonna love me concept and turned it from 0 to 100. And really, where that was for me is, I guess now, based on what Dewan is saying, is that comes from the trauma you had shit when you was younger. And I don't know a nicer way to say that, so I'm not gonna say it nice. Nice.
All on stage, all in the video.
Yeah, you don't know what it's like to be in the limelight when you were younger. Maybe somebody deprived you from it, or maybe you just wasn't shit. So now we put you on stage and you don't know how to react to that, and you playing that out for the rest of your life, right? Like that's kind of what we're talking about here, is not being able to manage that and being in the light, and then all you know for the rest of your life is the streets gonna love me. I don't know.
No, so you saying that's just supposed to be in that box right there. You're supposed to leave that there, right? Don't carry that over into.
Bro, it's some people out here.
They carrying it out, like still going?
Yeah, and man, somebody got to call my phone and you want a problem. We can talk about it. There's some people out here that literally they got whatever level of the light that was. I see it in police work too. It shows up in all types of stuff. They get put in that limelight, and now all of a sudden, whether you're a cop, whether you're a fraternity, a sorority, there's all types of different topics we can name in life. And you don't know how to react to people. You don't deal with people fairly. You deal with people based on the trauma of what you were before that. Now, and that's how you show up as a person. Everything is about is the streets gonna love me. Everything is about is the job gonna love me. Everything is about these big group of people that you really don't necessarily break bread with that you can't call and be like, I can't pay my mortgage this month, but you're worried about what your perception looks like in front of them. So I mean,
that's that social media stuff, bro.
That's what we talk about, though.
Media, though. People been doing this shit in fraternity sorority life before MySpace.
But Tab, that's why we always talk about. Remember, we always talk about your 20s are for you, right? Especially your early 20s, right? That's when you need to be figuring out who you are as a person, right? That's why dating is so important, right? Getting to know yourself, having different group of friends is so important. Not just your friends from high school, friends from college, friends from the math club, friends from the ag club, just different groups of friends, because in your social interactions, you learn more about yourself, right? And so too often we make mistakes because if you're talking about the dude who he's still in his 30s, 40s, 50s running around, like, come on, bro. Like, that means there was aspects of your life where you didn't learn those situations in which you went through. You didn't learn anything from it. And you're an attention whore. Now you're an attention whore and you're toxic. You're out here ruining lives because you're going from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, and you just killing these women. You killing them along the way because you haven't had time to heal and learn about yourself and what your needs were. Because at a certain point in life, you should be able to explain to a woman, to whoever you're dating, what you need from them in order for it to be a good, healthy relationship. But if you can't do that because you're not taking time for yourself, that becomes a problem. One of the things that I tell every college freshman, look, have fun, do what you do, but do not get in a relationship your first year of college. Do not, because you're going to get in a relationship and immediately you're going to stop going to the social events. You're going to stop hanging out. And there's not going to be as much of a need to meet other people because you're spending all your free time with this person. Now you've handicapped yourself. And a lot of what you should have learned in college, you're not learning it because you tied yourself into a relationship so early in your life. So sometimes you just need that time to spread your wings a little bit.
All the people we know that are married in undergrad, and there ain't no slight to them, that went into pledging married or got married right after pledging are no longer married. And that's not just our organization, that's in other organizations as well. So I don't know the statistics behind it. I don't even like math. I damn sure ain't good at it. But what I can tell you is that what I've seen through the eyeball test is that everybody that went through that and then tried to take on that experience, whether fraternity, sorority life, or just undergrad life, and got married freshman, sophomore year of college, you know what it's like to be divorced. You can come and talk to us about that. And so clearly those things must correlate to something, right?
Well, when you go back and get your master's, Tab, why don't you run the data on that, buddy?
Hey, well, as always, we appreciate all the viewers today, all the people who tapped in live, and all the people who's gonna catch this recording at a later date. You got comments on what we have to say today. Hey, if you disagree, say something, speak on it, right? Again, we can't grow without criticism. We can't grow without it. So comment, like, subscribe, email, whatever you guys need to do. And brothers, do you have anything to say in our parting ways to everyone?
Man, tune in, like, subscribe to Braspective, Instagram, YouTube, dislike, like he said, like it, comment, all the above. Based on today's topic, man, I just want to say is, man, just try to be the best version of yourself. Keep growing. Like Dewan talked about, all the other fellas talked about, when we got blind spots, have somebody to call you out on them. And when they do, take the criticism and be like, you know what? You right. And it's okay to be like, you know what? I was tripping.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? As men, we like, man, we'll say sorry. My bad. Just say my bad. I'm tripping. And then move on from that. But hey, man, just keep trying. Keep striving each day.
So I'll say, like I say always, we only get to do this once. So that criticism, the things that people are telling you in your blind side, it's only to make you better. So that as you go through this journey this one time, you'll be the best at it. So I would say take those criticism, embrace that growth. Those hard times don't last forever because it's just part of life. Echo what Jeff just said, subscribe, like, share, send in your comments. Man, if you got some words of wisdom to help us expand, please provide them. And like always, see you in 2 weeks.
Yep. And once again, I echo what everybody else said. And on top of that, just cherish the people around you, your loved ones. Once again, this is our first episode without G-Mommy Marjorie being in our comments. And it's difficult because I keep looking over at the comments as they're coming in. because I always, even if she had church, just looking for them, just so I'm used to hers being in there. So y'all cherish the people around you, that continue to challenge you in your growth to be a good man. And don't take that time for granted, man. Be happy for those that have you, because this shit goes by fast. I don't know if it's COVID or what's going on, but the cycle of death around us is fast and unfair. So cherish the ones around you. Once again, I'm going to push the envelope. We'll probably be in Clubhouse next week. So when you see that Braspective go up, join our room. We'll be continuing conversations like this. And thank y'all, everybody, for tuning in. We know the streets is open, so if you didn't get to watch it live, share it. Check it later on in your off time.
Yes. Hey, and everyone out there, anybody who's experiencing any loss, any hurt, prayers for their strength. Obviously, we talked about kind of the importance of mental health on this episode, and being able to have somebody to talk to just to run some ideas by. That's always important. If you're at a point in life where you feel like you have no one, find someone, right? Knock on a door, knock on a neighbor door, find a therapist, something like that. To everyone out there who is a father, happy Father's Day. As Father's Day approach, celebrate yourself. Don't only allow the people around you to celebrate. Celebrate yourself. You know what I'm saying? We trying to get the dad brunch going on for us out here in Dallas, man. Celebrate yourself, because sometimes you got to be able to take that time and say, man, I'm doing a great job, or at least the best job I can. And then Juneteenth is coming. For all those who go out and celebrate for Juneteenth, have fun. Please celebrate. Recognize and understand your history. Recognize and understand where you came from when your independence actually really started, or if you are, if we're still kind of independent or free. But go out and celebrate Juneteenth. Get some information and get some knowledge. And we'll tune back with you in 2 weeks. Hug somebody, love somebody, and we'll see you guys again at a later date.